In this lesson, we will learn how to use R for descriptive statistics. So to do that, let's get started with RStudio. I'm using a Windows computer, so I'll just enter RStudio on my search bar and this will bring it up. Okay, so once it has opened, it will come up with three different windows. This is the editor. This is where we will write the codes. This is the console where you will see the result. You can also write the codes here, but I'll write the codes in the editor because it helps you save it, because otherwise if you write your codes in console, then you won't be able to save it. And finally, this is where your plots and graphs will appear. So I have written a sample code for descriptive statistics, and what I'll do is I'll go to File, Recent Files, Descriptive. Okay, so the code looks somewhat like this. Now, if you see closely, R is giving me a warning that the package dplyr is required but is not installed. Okay, so we need to install that. Now, how do we do that? You can just click on this and it will install it. Otherwise, there is another option where you can just type install packages dpyr, sorry, lr. Now if you run this, it will install. Now this is how you can install different add-on packages into R. There are so many of them, in fact hundreds of them. But for this purpose, we just need this one, which is why we just installed it, and I installed it from CRAN. So in one of my previous lessons, I had mentioned that in R, the base software, this is the base software and it does fantastic work, but there are times when you need to borrow add-ons for special functionality, and that's why we did this. So once this has been installed, what I'll do is I'll put a hashtag before this. Now what this will do is it will omit the, or it will tell R to not read the code after that. Now what do I mean by that? Now, for example, if I'm running this, so once it has been installed and if I run it again, if I run the entire code again here, this will reinstall, and then every time we are running the code, it will keep on reinstalling and reinstalling. But we do not need that, right? So what we need is, I just put this hashtag so that the next time I run the R code, the complete R code, R knows that I'm telling it that this is not for running anymore. Okay, so if you remove it, it becomes active again, right? And you can again, if you run it, it will get reinstalled, but you don't need it. So I just put a hashtag, and this is true for any line. Now you'll see below that this line, for example, descriptive statistics for the entire data set. For this one, I have entered a hashtag. For this one as well, load the data set. Now, this is important for you to realize that if you do not put this, for example, if you put this, do not put this hashtag, then what happens? R interprets this as a command line, which it is not, right? So it throws you an error. This is not an acceptable command for R. So it throws up an error. But to us humans, we know this is an instruction, right? Or this is kind of, it's just convenient for me to just write this step so that my colleagues or my friends can, when they are looking at my code, they know what I'm doing. So I'll just put this hashtag, and putting hashtag makes these lines like unrunnable in a way, right? So R does not do anything with these sentences that comes after hashtag. So now if you check this code, so this is a very simple code, but before we run the code and before I tell you what is what, let's take a look at the data set. Okay, so what do we have here? So I have got a CSV file. So it's Microsoft Excel comma separated values file, which is CSV file. Now CSV file is a data file and it looks just like Excel. So it's like, to a layperson, it does not matter. And even through us, it won't really matter as much. But my point is that it's not exactly Excel, but it's CSV. Okay. So this is the fictional data set, and we have got age, gender, depression score, anxiety score, therapy duration, and improvement score. So these are psychotherapy patients, and a fictional data, no one exists by these scores or these names, so I just created this, and we'll just use this fictional data to learn. Okay, so this is how it looks. There are 500, yeah, so it's 501, it's written 501, but then the first row was the header column, sorry, header row. Okay, so we will subtract that and take from number 2 to 501, and that's 500 people, so 500 patients, right? So this is how the data set looks like. Now we will close this. Don't save. Okay, and now it's on my desktop. All right, now what I can do and what I encourage you to do while doing R, create a folder and maybe my psychotherapy project, something like that. Okay, and then put this data set inside it, and then what happens, it just makes your life more organized. And it's not compulsory, but this is how I prefer to do. So when it is here, all I want you to do is that do a right click and go to copy as path. Okay, click on this, and then what happens is magic. Now what happens, you'll get something like this. So for example, it is like this, and you go here, right click, copy as path, and go to RStudio, paste it here, and what you can see is that this dataset.csv and the file location where it is in my computer. Now it will be different for you. Okay, and what we are doing in this line is that we are telling R to read the CSV file that's on my desktop inside my psychotherapy project folder. So it's specifying the location. So I am specifying, I'm telling R that look into my desktop, and there is this folder called my psychotherapy project, and within it there is a CSV file. I want you to read that CSV file, and this is what I am doing, and I'm storing that inside a variable called patients underscore data. Now you can write anything. Okay, so it can be anything really. Okay, so you can write it something like just data. Okay, just data, and that's fine. Okay, I could have written this, I could have named this variable as Chandral's data, and that's fine as well. You can do anything with it. Okay, so you can name your variable the way you want. The only condition is, the only rule is that you have to be consistent everywhere wherever you are putting this. So for example, if I would have named this as Chandril data underscore data, then this would have changed as well. Okay, now this would have changed as well, this would have changed as well. Do you see what I mean? So everywhere, whatever name you're putting, make sure it is consistent everywhere, and that's super important for you to know. Okay, so for now we'll just keep it to patients underscore data, and let's see, let's go one by one. Now that we know the data, what the data looks like, let's go one by one for each line of code. So the first line we have already done, we are done with installation, and I can even actually delete it at the moment. That's fine. I mean, you never have to reinstall it again. Okay, so once you have installed R or R Studio in your computer, and once you're done with this thing, with installing this one package one time, and that's it, forget about it. The next time R will automatically, once it has been installed, it will pick it up and you're good to go. Okay, so don't worry, you don't have to reinstall it ever again. Of course, until you are changing your device, or maybe you are uninstalling RStudio, then you have to do it, but otherwise no. Anyway, so the first line is where we are loading the necessary libraries, in which case it's just one library and this dplyr. Okay, the next line of the code is where we are naming a variable. Okay, we are creating a variable, and we are using the read.csv function, and we are telling R to read this particular CSV file, which is the data file. And then the next thing you need is the descriptive data. So all you need to do is just write summary. Now you cannot change this. Okay, now if you write something like summaries or something like that, you cannot do that. It will throw up an error. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. Yeah, so nothing happens, right? So you can see nothing happens here. But if we just write summary, yeah, it now R Studio automatically pops up this thing, all the kind of base functions or stats function that are available here. Okay, you can click on any of these and click on F1 for additional help. It will tell you what is what, but for now we'll just stick to the descriptive and we'll just keep to summary. Okay, now if I click this, if I just select all of these 3 lines of code and run this, now it says, okay, interesting. So it says this used without hex digits in character string. What is this? Okay, so this is a common error that R throws up. Don't worry about it. All it's telling you to do is that maybe enter one more and not just one. This is kind of one of those weird problems that comes up, and it's pretty simple to fix. Yeah, that's it. It's fixed, right? So it threw up an error. It told you what it was exactly, and I know what it is, so I could figure it out easily, but that's fine. I mean, if you're stuck somewhere, if you are coming across some kind of error, all you need to do, just copy this and maybe just paste on Google, and it will tell you on websites like Stack Overflow, and there are so many other websites which will tell you exactly what this error is about and how to fix this. So these are development. I mean, some other people might have come across this similar problem and they will share the solutions. Okay, and you can try to figure it out with this. Now, even better, quick note, you can also use this in ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is in the market, and you can use it for resolving errors. Okay, I'll show you quickly what do I mean by that. So let's say it was I didn't knew what to do. Okay, and you might come across this kind of errors throughout your career with whenever you're using R, and I just want to show you that what would you do if you're getting an error and you don't know how to fix it. So you can go by the Google method, and that's what we used to do before ChatGPT era. And but nowadays what you can do is we can just write it to ChatGPT and say something like there has been an error, how to fix it. Now it will give you a lot of different solutions, and that's it. Do you see what did I say? So there are two solutions it is giving. One is forward slash and the other one two backslash, the one I used, and either way both are fine. So I'll just use this, and this way you can easily resolve a lot of your doubts with R. Okay, so the point is, now that we know that we have got the summary function gives you descriptives for each of the variables you had in the dataset. For age, for example, let's see what have we found. For age, you can see the minimum value is 18, the maximum value we got was 69. So which means our participants were between 18 years and 69 years of age. Likewise, the first quartile is 32, median is 45, mean is 44.22, third quartile is 57. Likewise, for depression, anxiety, therapy duration, and improvement scores, we have got some pretty interesting results. Very quickly, you can get what is the mean median mode, and the mean median at least, and the range minimum to maximum, and the first quartile and the third quartile. Now once this is done, next we probably need standard deviation. Okay, now how do we do that? So for standard deviation, for example, we can do in a following way. So check the code that's there. Okay, so let's take the mean. Let's start with mean. So we have already found mean using this summary function, but let's check how to find mean the other way. Okay, and that's exactly how we will do standard deviation as well. So once we have written mean, let's say mean, yeah, you see again it pops up. RStudio is fantastic because it gives you what are the options you have available. So these are the things that you have available, and I'll just write mean, patients underscore data, and the dollar sign, and then depression underscore score, right? What it means is that there are these two within this data set. This line of code is telling R that within this data set, that's called within this variable, this data set has been represented by the variable. So whenever we are calling or we are telling R about the data set, we will not repeat the entire thing anymore. All we need to do is that we just need to tell R about patients dot underscore data. That's it, and R will understand we mean you want, like, it needs to be looked into the data. So what we are doing here is that we are using the variable for data set and telling R using the dollar sign to look for this specific variable or this specific column. Okay, and we are using mean, which means we are telling R that look for the mean. As simple as that. Okay, and the mean, as you can see, is 50.15. Now for depression, it's 50.15, and if you check what we found here, it's the same, 50.15. So this was probably a moot point to do mean anymore because we had already got it. But let's do one for standard deviation. For standard deviation, what we will do is we'll use SD, and similarly patients underscore data, that's the variable for the data set, and put a dollar sign, which means look inside the data for this particular column, and we will use depression score again. Now what happens for this one? If we run this specific line, it gives you 9.88. Cool. Likewise, you can actually, for anxiety, for example, let's say you want to look for anxiety scores, mean and standard deviation, this particular column, then just run both. Okay. And finally, we had gender, and for gender, it was categorical data. So we had male, female, 1 and 0, 0 or 1, like that. So all we need to do is that we cannot obviously find a mean for that, right? So because it's categorical data, which means there are no descriptive statistics as such, except we can say how many people or how many patients in our data set were females, how many were males, and maybe find out the proportion or the percentage of it. Okay, so to do that, to count the gender, we'll just write table and put the data set and dollar sign with gender, and that will give you the specific number of people that were there. Finally, the last line is to find out the proportion and multiplied by 100, which is prop is proportion and dot table for the gender, and this gives us the percentage of female participants versus male participants, and it's proportion. So if you would have run this, it would have given you proportions. See, it's giving you proportions. But if you are multiplying it by 100, let's say you want percentage, then you can just mark this and run this, and it will give you percentage. So 52.4% males were there as participants in your data set, and 47.36% were females. Now, there was an alternative way to do it. So instead of clicking one by one, you can just copy everything and click run, and it happens like magic. Everything is taken together and R runs the entire thing. So that's it. That's all for descriptives. I hope you learned something new. Now let's get to practice. Bye bye. See you in the next class.